welcome back. We are going into the book of Obadiah. And most people like Obadiah. Why? Because Obadiah is the shortest book of prophecy, right? It's only one chapter long, and it's made up of 21 verses. And this is what Obadiah says in Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. Turn there with me. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. It says this. It says, the vision of Obadiah. This is what the sovereign Lord says about Edom. Now remember, Edom was founded by Esau, Jacob's twin brother. Right? Jacob becomes the father of the 12 sons who are the founders or the namesakes of the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, Esau becomes the founder of the Edomites. And Jacob and Esau, they are brothers and they are struggling in the womb of Rebekah. How many of you guys remember that story? Right? And after they're born, Jacob and Esau are at odds with each other all of their lives. Right? Jacob becomes the nation of Israel and Judah. Right? And Esau becomes the nation of Edom. And what begins in the womb of Rebekah, right, that struggle in the womb blooms up to become a struggle between two nations. And when the Babylonians and Nebuchadnezzar, when they come, they lay siege to Jerusalem from 588 to 586 BC, and the city falls. Remember, Jerusalem falls on August 14, 586 BC. The Edomites, they had to come up from the southeast and were watching all of this happen. And when the city fell, the Edomites, what they do? They poured into the city and they looted the city of Jerusalem, this fallen city. Well, Edom today is famous for the city of Petra, right? Petra was built much later than the book of Obadiah, but Petra is a city that is carved out of rock, and it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's a city that is carved in the rock, and as you enter Petra, there are towering cliffs, and on either side of this narrow passageway going through. Right? And we have all seen that passageway if you've seen the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. How many of you have seen that movie? Harrison Ford, right? If you remember, right, the knight has a chalice and he is in the temple. And so Indiana Jones arrives at the temple and he goes in. Well, that image there, that's not the temple that you see. That's actually the treasury building in Petra. Right? And when they come out of the temple and the whole thing is collapsing in the movie and Indiana Jones, right, Harrison Ford and his father, Sean Connery, right, what happens? They get on horses and they ride through this narrow passageway, right? And that is the passageway leading into and leading out of Petra. And so this city is a fortified location that is naturally fortified, right? And you can defend it with literally a handful of men who simply just drop big rocks on anyone who tried to come in. And at the time, it was an unbreachable fortress. And yet, this is what we learn from Obadiah. It says this. It says, this is what the sovereign Lord says about Edom. That we have heard a message from the Lord. An envoy was sent to the nation to say, rise, let us go against her for battle. Verse 2, see, I will make you small among nations. You will be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you. You who live in the clefts of the rocks and make your homes on the heights. You who say to yourselves, who can bring me down to the ground? Verse 4, though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. And why? Jump down with me to verse 10. You there? Verse 10, it says this. It says, because of the violence against your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame. You will be destroyed forever. And on that day, you, Edom, right? On that day, Edom stood aloof while strangers carried off his wealth, and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem. And you were like one of them. And so what's the Lord saying? I will bring you down. Well, think about this. Jerusalem fell on August 14, 586 BC. But today, we all know, we all perhaps have Jewish friends, right? But I would venture to say that there's not one person watching this who has an Edomite friend today. Why? Because they are not around anymore, right? It is now the part of the nation Jordan, and the Novatian people are native to that area today. And so think about this. With Obadiah, you have a struggle that begins in the womb of Rebekah, right? It blooms into a struggle between two nations. And at the time of the fall of Jerusalem, and it narrows back down to a struggle between two men at the foot of the cross. What? You say, what? Well, think about this. Right, the Lord Jesus Christ, right? He is a descendant of Jacob's fourth son, Judah, right? And Herod is half Jew and he's half Edomite. And Herod is the only person in the Bible that Jesus has absolutely nothing to say to. Right? Matter of fact, Jesus offers a scathing insult towards Herod. Right? When Jesus is told in the Gospel of Luke that Herod is looking for you, Jesus says, right, using a feminine gender ending to a normally masculine noun, he says, tell that vixen, I will come and go as I please. Right? And when Jesus finally brought before Herod, and Herod asked Jesus all of those questions, right, Jesus just stands and looks at him in utter contempt, and he will not even speak a word. Right? And what begins in the womb of Rebekah blooms into the struggle between two nations. And it comes right down to the struggle between two men at the foot of the cross. Right? And it is this great thread that runs through the scriptures. And that is the book of Obadiah.